You've probably seen this political move before, right? A problem gets really thorny, maybe a little too politically risky, and the government pulls out a classic play. They delegate it. They create a new, arm's-length body to handle it. So today, we're going to dig into why this strategy, as common as it is, often isn't the magic fix we're all hoping for.
I mean, you see this playbook all the time, and on the surface, it makes a lot of sense. You're faced with a really tough issue, you create an expert body, you give them a mandate, and you kind of distance the problem from the day-to-day political grind. It's a totally standard response. The only problem is, it often doesn't actually work.
And this, right here, is the central puzzle. Sometimes delegation works brilliantly. It can genuinely extend a government's ability to think and act for the long term. But other times, it does little more than just park the problem somewhere out of sight. So what on earth makes the difference?
So you've got these two very different paths delegation can take. On one side, you have success. The new body actually stretches what's possible, protecting long-term goals. And then there's the other side, failure. The new body just becomes a babysitter. It's not there to solve anything fundamental, just to keep things ticking over until the politicians finally decide what to do.
Okay, so what does success even look like? Well, we actually have a great example. The UK's Office for Budget Responsibility, or OBR. Now, it's not the gold standard because everyone loves its forecasts or agrees with it all the time. Oh, definitely not. Its real strength is actually baked right into its design.
And this quote, I think, just nails it. The OBR was designed from the very beginning with the assumption that there would be political disagreement. Its authority doesn't come from being popular with the government of the day, it comes from being consistent. And that is the secret sauce.
But see, when that political direction is all over the place and priorities are constantly shifting, the delegated body can't be an engine for change. It gets stuck just trying to keep the lights on. It becomes a babysitter.
I mean, think about it. A babysitter's job is to make sure the house doesn't burn down, not to start renovating the kitchen, right? And that's exactly the point here. These failing bodies are designed, often unintentionally, just to maintain the status quo, not to drive the deep, structural change that these massive problems actually need.
So why does this keep happening? What's the root cause? Well, the answer isn't buried in some obscure mission statement. The clue is actually hiding in plain sight in some really telling data about how long the leaders of these organizations actually stick around for.
And, wow, just take a look at this. The people who observe and comment on policy, the analysts, the critics, they're often in their roles for a decade or even more. But the people who are actually tasked with delivering this policy, the leaders of these big delivery bodies, they're cycling through every 3 or 4 years. That is a massive disconnect.
And this right here, this is what we can call the horizon problem. We are asking for something that is fundamentally impossible. We're asking leaders to oversee these huge multi-decade plans for things like housing, infrastructure, or climate, but we're giving them a job tenure that's shorter than a single term of parliament. It's basically a setup for failure from day one.
Yeah, it's really easy to look at that rapid churn and think, oh, that's just accountability in action, right? Out with the old, in with the new. But it's not. When you compare it to similar bodies in other countries, or even large private companies, this level of turnover is a flashing red light for deep, systemic instability. It's a system that just can't let things settle. Okay, so this brings us to a really big twist in the story. We're so often told that the success or failure of these kinds of institutions all comes down to one simple thing: trust. But what if that's the completely wrong way to look at it?
You know the question. It's the one that always dominates the headlines and the political debates, isn't it? Do we trust the experts? Can we trust this institution? We frame this whole thing as a matter of faith, a matter of feelings about the organization. But here's the thing. That whole lens of trust, it turns out to be the wrong one. It completely misses a much more important, much more structural dynamic that's at play. So if it's not about trust, then what is it about? It's about this concept, survivability. A well-designed system doesn't actually need everyone to trust it or be happy with it all the time. It works because the structure itself is so robust that it makes it really costly and difficult to just tear things up and start again. It's about the architecture, not the attitude. And this takes us right back to our star player, the OBR. It functions and it endures, not because every politician instinctively trusts it, but because its design is survivable. Its authority isn't wiped clean with every new government. It's built to withstand the constantly changing political weather.
So let's pull all these threads together now. The babysitters, the horizon problem, this idea of survivability. When we do that, we arrive at a really powerful and frankly pretty uncomfortable conclusion about what delegation really is.
First things first, we like to think that creating one of these arm's-length bodies is a neat way to fix a broken part of our political system. But it's not a substitute for real institutional reform. You can't just outsource the hard work.
The truth is, delegation is something else entirely. It's a multiplier. It doesn't create stability or long-term thinking out of thin air. It just takes whatever already exists in the core political system and amplifies it.
And what that means is, if you plug one of these bodies into a political system that is stable and thinks for the long term, well, delegation makes that system even stronger. But if you plug it into an unstable, short-termist system, all you're really doing is relocating that fragility. You're just outsourcing the chaos.
So if we really want these bodies to be powerful engines for change, instead of just being shock absorbers for short-term politics, then trying to fix them isn't the first step. The real work, the hard work, has to start back at the center, with how Parliament itself operates.
And that leaves us with one last, big, unavoidable question. If just creating another new body isn't the answer, and the real problem lies deep within our core political institutions, what are the fundamental issues that our leaders can no longer afford to sidestep? That, right there, is the conversation we really need to be having.